She knows what she wants tonight. Moves fast like a neon tide. Confidence in every line. She's got style to find.
The Package, Chapter 14. The return journey from Philadelphia was as arduous as the infiltration. The chaos they'd stirred in the stabilization zone meant a heightened centipede presence in the surrounding areas. May's team moved with tactical precision, avoiding newly established checkpoints and small, desperate bands of scavengers. They were burdened by their prize, the heavy, clunky analog server rack, its leaden weight a testament to the valuable secrets it contained. "They'll be looking for us," May stated, scanning the tree line as they traversed a disused railway track. Wraith doesn't seem like one to let a defeat go unanswered. Casey, his shoulders aching from carrying a portion of the server rack, grunted. "Good, let him. They'll find nothing." His eyes, however, were constantly sweeping, his senses attuned to the slightest anomaly. He spotted a glint of metal in a distant, overgrown field. "Hold up. Movement. 2 o'clock. Heavy vehicle." It was a centipede transport, a modified school bus, rumbling slowly along a dirt road, likely patrolling. Their chances of hiding the bulky server rack from its vantage point were slim. "Hunter, Barton. Diversion. Draw them away. Natasha, Bobby, Casey, with me. We'll move the server." Hunter grinned. "Sounds like fun, mate." He and Clint melted into the undergrowth. A few minutes later, a series of concussive arrows detonated further down the dirt road, followed by the distant crackle of rifle fire. The bus immediately changed course, barreling towards the disturbance. The diversion bought them the precious time they needed. They pushed the server rack through thick brush, struggling with its weight over uneven terrain, fueled by adrenaline and the knowledge of its importance. Back at the playground, the research team was pushing their limits. The lab was a maelstrom of salvage parts, schematics, and desperate scientific inquiry. "The frequency detector is built," Simmons announced, her face smudged with grease but her eyes bright with triumph. She held up a cobbled-together device, wires protruding at odd angles. "Now to measure the core's resonance." Daisy carefully placed her hands on the centipede core, her brow furrowed in intense concentration. She closed her eyes, letting the subtle vibrations resonate within her. It's like a song, but out of tune, a discordant hum with multiple layers. She described the specific rhythmic patterns, the subtle shifts in perceived energy. Sarah, her intersect, acting as a silent interpreter, absorbed Daisy's raw sensory data, cross-referencing it with the complex harmonic principles she'd seen in the toolbox. Daisy's sensing the residual null frequency that the EMP left behind. "My calculations indicate that reversing it requires a precise counter frequency for each layer of that nullification. It's like needing to play a perfect chord to undo the dissonance." Fitz, his mind buzzing, was already sketching out complex diagrams. "So we're not just blasting a frequency, we're building a multi-channel harmonic resonator. It'll need precision tuning, beyond anything mechanical." He looked at Daisy. "You'll be our ultimate tuner, Daisy. You'll have to feel when the counterpulse is perfectly aligned with the null frequency." Their biggest obstacle now was power. A global counterpulse would require an unimaginable amount of energy, and their generators, while functional, were nowhere near enough. Thinking of the information from the toolbox, Sarah mused. "Look for an energy nexus, a natural phenomenon that could amplify the pulse. I'm thinking maybe a geological feature, possibly volcanic or tectonic, but stable enough to harness. A geological feature capable of amplifying energy." Bobby, having just returned with the tactical team, heard this as she entered the lab. She looked from Simmons to Sarah. "That sounds like a direct application of some bioresonance research I've read up on. If you can find the right nexus point, we might be able to tap into the Earth's natural energy field." Just then, the rest of May's tactical team entered the lab, dragging the massive, clunky server rack. dust-covered and weary, but with a palpable sense of accomplishment. "We got it," May announced, gesturing to the server. Centipede's hardened data, their full operational blueprint for the stabilization zones, their supply chains, and their key personnel. Simmons immediately moved to the server. "It's analog, but we'll need to figure out how to access it. Special reader, likely." Casey, looking directly at Sarah, offered a rare grim smile. "It's all there, Walker. The director's entire plan to rebuild the world in his image. Every last horrifying detail." The tactical data and the scientific breakthroughs converged. They now had an understanding of the EMP, a blueprint for its reversal, and an intimate knowledge of Centipede's terrifying plan for global control. The fight was far from over, but for the first time since the lights went out, S.H.I.E.L.D. had a clear path forward. In the playground's labs, amidst the now normal hum of generators and machinery, Leo Fitz hunched over a workbench, soldering iron in hand. Beads of sweat dotted his brow, reflecting the concentrated glow of a miniature circuit board. He meticulously wired a tiny component, muttering to himself, "Almost there, just optimizing the electromagnetic shielding," he mumbled, his voice low. "Wouldn't want them to go radio silent on me, would we? Not with what they're walking into." He carefully slotted the finished board into a ruggedized, palm-sized casing. This was his answer to the director's growing threat, a communication system designed to bypass any digital blackout. He'd repurposed old vacuum tube transceivers, integrating his own proprietary encryption algorithms and EMP hardening techniques. The result was clunky by modern standards, but virtually unhackable and impervious to the very digital disruptions the director was capable of unleashing. He'd sacrificed bandwidth and clarity for an unparalleled level of resilience. Gemma Simmons walked in, a tray of tea in hand. "Still had it, Fitz? You haven't slept in days," she said as she gently placed her hand on his shoulder. He grinned tiredly. "Almost done, Gemma. Just tweaking the last few. If the director drops the hammer with an EMP or just jams everything, our teams in the field will still have a direct line to the playground. No fancy data streams, no video feeds, just pure, unbreakable audio. They'll hate the static, but they'll get the message." He pushed a completed unit across the table. It was a tangible piece of hope, a small but vital link against a world teetering on the edge of a digital dark age. Far from the chaos of Philadelphia and the flickering lights of the S.H.I.E.L.D. playground, the director, a man of chilling composure and formidable intellect, stood in a secure, subterranean command center. Unlike S.H.I.E.L.D.'s struggling efforts, this facility hummed with controlled power from massive, purpose-built diesel generators. Screens displaying complex schematics and topographical maps glowed with a dull, steady light. Albright, Ambassador Lynn, and Kendrick moved with a quiet efficiency, their faces reflecting a chilling satisfaction. "Philadelphia reports a localized disturbance," Albright announced, her voice flat. "Our security forces were engaged. They managed to extract the core operatives, but lost the propaganda tower and a critical data server." Wraith, battered and limping, appeared on a secure closed-circuit video feed. "The S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, they're here. They had an archer with them, and they are good." His voice was raw with frustrated rage. The director steepled his fingers, his expression utterly devoid of emotion. "Expected. Fury's insects are tenacious, but they are operating in a world we created, and they do not understand." He dismissed Wraith with a flick of his wrist. "The lost server is unfortunate, but not critical. Its contents merely detail the initial phases of our stabilization protocols, information they will discover in time regardless." He turned to a massive hand-drawn map of the eastern seaboard, dotted with various centipede strongholds and newly designated stabilization zones. The EMP was merely the cleansing, the removal of the digital cancer that choked humanity. Now we begin the reconstruction. Ambassador Lin spoke, her tone smooth and confident. Our initial reports from the designated zones are excellent, Director. The populace, stripped of their comforts and illusions, are receptive to our offer of order: food, water, shelter, protection. Simple, undeniable needs, in exchange for compliance. They are eager for a strong hand. The fear is a powerful motivator, Kendrick added, his eyes gleaming with a predatory intelligence. Our logistical networks, established well in advance, are already distributing essential supplies. We're creating a new economic and social hierarchy, based on loyalty to our vision. No more chaotic markets, no more divisive politics. The director nodded, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touching his lips. Precisely. The collapse of the old world was necessary. Humanity had become soft, reliant on frivolous distractions. We are providing purpose. We are providing order through enlightened authority. He moved to a schematic of a vast, sprawling underground complex, currently marked Phase 2 Activation. While S.H.I.E.L.D. scrambles in the darkness, seeking to restore a broken past, we are building the future. Our true objective is not merely control of the surface world's resources, it is the permanent consolidation of power, secured by a network of hardened deep earth facilities. These facilities will serve as the playgrounds for our new global government, impervious to any future technological disruption or external threat. Our long-term energy solution is proceeding without issue, Albright confirmed, gesturing to another diagram. At Site Theta, the secondary Exodus core is being prepared for activation at our primary subterranean facility. It will provide clean, limitless power for our network, without the instability of the original core. His gaze was cold, calculating. Let S.H.I.E.L.D. chase shadows on the surface. Let them cling to their outdated notions of freedom. While we attempt to stitch together a broken world, we will be forging a new one from beneath. By the time they understand the true depth of our plans, it will be too late. The new dawn had truly arrived. His confidence was absolute, rooted in the belief that he was not a villain, but a savior, orchestrating humanity's forced evolution. He looked at his inner circle, his chosen few, and saw only unwavering conviction. The EMP was just the overture to a much grander, more terrifying symphony of control. Back at the playground, the air was thick with tension as Coulson received the full debrief from the Philadelphia raid. The information they'd gleaned from Albright's compound, coupled with the chilling clarity of the director's revealed objectives, painted a terrifying picture. The centipede server rack, once a tangible victory, now seemed like a mere puzzle piece in a far larger, more sinister game. Simmons, Fitz, Daisy, Sarah, and Bobby huddled around the clunky server rack. Fitz, using a series of meticulously crafted analog readers and optical relays, painstakingly began to extract the data from its magnetic tapes. It was a slow, agonizing process. But the information, when it began to trickle out, confirmed the director's chilling ambition. "It's a comprehensive plan for global restructuring," Simmons announced, her voice grim, reading from the first decoded segments. "Not just stabilization zones, but a complete reordering of society, centralized production, forced resettlement, absolute obedience enforced by a new centipede-controlled authority structure." She paused, looking back at her notes. Also, several references to Site Theta, but no coordinates.
And a network of hardened deep earth facilities, Sarah added, her intersect recognizing patterns from the toolbox's more abstract schematics. The director isn't just building on the surface, he's establishing an unassailable infrastructure underground, immune to EMPs, insulated from civil unrest. Daisy felt a cold dread. And a secondary exodus core to power it all. This isn't just about turning the lights on and off, it's about a permanent global power shift. Bobby's eyes narrowed. These deep earth facilities, they'd be incredibly hard to find without our tech. We'd need geological survey data, seismic readings, all the things the EMP destroyed. Coulson absorbed the information, his face grim. All right, the game has changed. Our two-front war now has a much deeper dimension. The director isn't just seeking control, he's building a permanent, untouchable empire beneath our feet. He turned to the team. The counterpulse is still our top priority, but its success now hinges on finding this energy nexus Sarah identified, and potentially finding the secondary exodus core itself. If we can trigger the counterpulse from a location with a strong natural energy amplification, it might be enough to overcome the global nullification. And if we can get to their secondary core, we might have a chance to not only reverse the EMP, but also to shut down their entire new network. But locating these deep Earth facilities without our tech, it's almost impossible, Fitz fretted, gesturing to the inert geological maps. Not impossible, Bobby countered, her gaze firm. Just incredibly difficult. We'll need to look for patterns. Centipedes' movements, their resource consumption, any anomalous seismic activity that could indicate deep excavation. We also need to get a better understanding of the director's top lieutenants and their specific roles in this new plan. Albright, Ambassador Lynn, Kendrick, they're not just figureheads anymore. They're architects of this new world. Coulson nodded thoughtfully as he moved out of the lab, a plan already forming. He led Bobby back to the briefing room where May and the rest of her team were still discussing their mission and its implications. Coulson moved to the head of the conference table and paused. May, Natasha, Casey, Hunter, Barton, he began. As I see it, we have two critical objectives. First, continue to disrupt the stabilization zones on the surface, slow their consolidation of power, prevent them from fully enslaving the populace, create enough chaos to buy us time. Second, we need to find clues to the locations of these deep Earth facilities. Walker and Bobby think that if we look for unusual energy signatures, heavily guarded supply lines that extend underground, geological anomalies on old paper maps that align with centipede activity. And if we find one of these facilities, Cassini grunted, his hand instinctively going to his combat knife, you gather intelligence, Coulson stated, his voice hard. You assess their defenses, and you find a way to get that information back here. We will need to hit them where it hurts, at their foundations. We can do that, May replied with a cold assurance in her voice. Coulson nodded and smiled grimly. I know, was his closing reply. May turned her attention to preparing the team for their next foray, armed with new understanding and an even greater sense of urgency. The director was building his new dawn, a dark, hidden empire. S.H.I.E.L.D. had to find a way to extinguish it before humanity was permanently plunged into a manufactured, controlled night. The revelation of the director's subterranean ambitions had injected a new urgency into every task. The fight was no longer just for the surface, but for the very foundations of the planet. In the main lab, the technical and research group was pushing the boundaries of analog science. With the understanding that a secondary exodus core existed deep underground, their search for the energy nexus became critical. If they could find a natural amplification point, they could potentially trigger a counterpulse powerful enough to reverse the EMP's global effect. Our energy nexus is being frustratingly difficult to find, Sarah mused. tracing a finger over a geological map retrieved from the playground's old paper archives. There should be areas of geological instability harmonized with specific ley lines. It sounds like pseudoscience, but given what we know about the Exodus core's resonant frequency, Sarah added thoughtfully, Bobby showed me some research on bioenergetic fields and their interaction with geological formations. Simmons nodded as Sarah continued. Ley lines are theoretical, but the concept of natural energy conduits within the Earth's crust isn't. We're looking for areas of high geothermal activity, unusual mineral deposits, or even deep fault lines that could act as a lens for a massive energy release. Fitz, ever the practical engineer, was already constructing a crude mechanical seismograph. We can't use digital sensors, but I can rig a pendulum and a recording drum. It won't give us precise seismic data, but it might register significant underground activity, especially from heavy excavation or, say, a massive alien core humming to life. Daisy, her connection to the core's energy growing stronger with each passing hour, felt a new, subtle vibration in the earth beneath the playground. I'm feeling something, a low thrum, far deeper than the playground's generators. It's almost like a heartbeat spreading through the crust. Her unique seismic sense was becoming their most advanced non-electronic detector. She closed her eyes, trying to pinpoint its direction and intensity. It feels strongest to the west, deeper underground. Simmons, meticulously analyzing the data from the Centipede server rack that Fitz was painstakingly extracting, found correlations between Centipede's proposed New World resource maps and areas of unusual geological formations. They're prioritizing regions rich in specific minerals or with access to deep underground water sources. It's not just about control, it's about self-sufficiency for their hidden network. Their challenge was immense, interpreting vague theoretical concepts and applying them to a world without digital tools, relying only on raw data and Daisy's enhanced senses. Meanwhile, the tactical and reconnaissance group faced an equally daunting task, hunting for hidden deep Earth facilities in a world without satellite imagery or GPS. Our best bet is to follow the money, or in this case, the resources, May stated, poring over a faded regional transportation map. The director's plan relies on self-sufficiency. These deep Earth playgrounds will need massive amounts of raw materials, energy, and a workforce. We look for the supply lines that disappear underground. Natasha pointed to several abandoned quarry sites and old mining operations on the map. These are already excavated. They'd be ideal for adapting into hidden entrances. And if Centipede is moving a lot of heavy equipment, they'll leave tracks. Clint, his eyes scanning the map, remembered a detail from his cross-country journey. I saw unusually heavy vehicle traffic near an old, defunct silver mine in upstate New York. It looked completely abandoned on the surface, but the tracks were fresh. Casey, his mind a steel trap for details, pulled out his own meticulously kept notes. And the Philadelphia server intel confirms a series of Phase 2 logistics points that align with historical industrial sites, many of them with underground access or old railway tunnels. He tapped a location further north in the Appalachian foothills. This one, specifically, a network of old coal mines. Perfect cover for deep excavation. Hunter, having studied Centipede's lower-level operations, recalled rumors of black sites, locations where Centipede experimented on and re-educated individuals deemed problematic. Some of those black sites were rumored to be in remote, defensible locations, often tied to old military bunkers or abandoned industrial complexes with extensive underground networks. Their immediate challenge was simple: covering vast distances, often on foot, in a hostile, resource-scarce world while avoiding centipede patrols and the growing desperation of the populace. They needed to find the needle in the haystack, a hidden entrance to a world beneath their own. The fate of humanity now rested on their ability to find what could not be seen.
She's got style to find.